Hello and welcome back to the Deadlock Collegiate Series. We have an exciting matchup for you all tonight. It's going to be University of Toronto versus the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. These two teams have come a long way since the start of Season 2, and now we find ourselves in the playoffs round 2, fighting for one of the last coveted positions. They are fighting Northwood University next week. My name is Spafflez, and I'm your host, joined by Sorin. Sorin, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's getting kind of late here, and we got a best of 3 ahead of us, so could be a long night, but it's going to be a night of good deadlock, because these two, it's always a blast to get to see them play, and especially against each other, as they know each other really well. They've already played each other in the season, and it was a very close 1-1 that we cast, so glad to get to see it again.
Yep, always excited to see these guys come back and, face each other head-to-head. That matchup that you're talking about only happened a month ago, so while there were some pretty big meta shakeups since then, the rosters have remained pretty much the same. Now, talking about the rosters, we do have a little bit of a shakeup here for University of Toronto. They're going to be playing here with a sub, so they're going to be missing Misclicked, which has been one of their primary carries. His Warden, his Mirage especially, has been a really defining force for the team, and now with him out of the picture and they're playing with On God instead, that's going to be a really big hurdle for them to overcome.
Yeah, Engad is a bit more of a frontliner kind of player. Abrams, Billy, bit of Infernus thrown in there, so that's going to influence how they draft for sure. And it may mean that they're not quite able to take this game long if it ends up being a battle between the M1s. I'm expecting for Styler to pick up that M1 role to sort of help soften things. He does tend to play a lot of those types of heroes, but what U of T really love to do is stick him on almost an off carry and just have him do a ton of damage in the early to mid game. So it's going to be a shakeup for U of T, but I mean they've played with substitutions before, just maybe not in a high stakes match like this.
Yeah, there's still definitely a lot on the line. You do have that safety net with the double elimination, but you really don't want to use it, especially when you have tough opponents upcoming right after. So, as we're preparing ourselves for this draft, right, you already alluded to the fact that On God is going to shake up a lot of the priorities here. With Styler potentially being pushed into that carry direction, do you think we're still going to see that signature Sinclair?
I wish, but it's probably not going to happen. I was honestly, coming into this, what I was really hoping for was for, UNL to pick Dynamo, and then we'd get to see the Styler Sinclair come out. But that seems extremely unlikely now, as he's probably going to be forced onto, the Warden or the Mina instead.
Yep, so a quick look here at the bracket as well. You've got a big series coming up afterwards. Northwood versus either of these teams is going to be a banger getting played next week. And we also see here the loser of this match is going to go up to face off against Seattle. Seattle came off of a very hot 2-0 yesterday, so I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to take a really big swing at what is the number 2 and number 3 team up in that upper bracket.
It's going to be a big test for them. From what we saw yesterday, I think Seattle are definitely the underdogs when it comes to either of these matchups, but also big when we're talking about that bracket there is that the winner of Seattle versus the loser of this match is going to have to play against either the Texas Aggies or we were just looking at it, the other team that's there, but the Aggies are likely to move on as well, so you get to skip that match entirely and go on to the losers finals. So if you do win this one, it's a big skip in the bracket, even if you end up losing to Northwood next playoffs round. So big things on the line as far as how far you can go in the playoffs for this season.
Yep, and as we prepare ourselves to go into this draft, we've already talked about the Dynamo being a super high priority pick. I also want to touch on, when you're looking at the UNL roster, Geist has been an absolute terror. So having Geist be a part of the picture, seeing potentially a Venator come through as well, you're going to have a lot of really high priority carries in this board, and with only one ban per team for that first half, you're guaranteed to get a lot through.
Yeah, and Shromo's really going to be the focus for UNL, right? If they've got a carry and the enemy team doesn't, then you really expect that carry to be able to pop off. So if we don't see U of T put Styler onto something like the Warden or the Venator, then they're definitely going to have to play around that from the other side as well, get off these frequent ganks, play the tempo style, and show that they can win without that late game. So starting off here, University of Toronto are going to ban away the Apollo, which is kind of an interesting first ban, not one we've seen a lot. And then the opposite over on the other side of Mirage, which seems to be first ban every single game.
Yeah, we did see University of Toronto last time on this broadcast. They were actually picking the Apollo first pick, so there's definitely something going on there where they're prioritizing it pretty highly. The Mirage ban makes a lot of sense given the current state, even after that recent round of nerfs has just been unshakable. Looking at University of Toronto's first pick, they've got Silver.
Not super surprising. I think Silver and Mirage and Venator are some of the strongest heroes in the meta, so U of T picking up at least one of those, making sure that UNL can't grab those back to back. And sure enough, it'll be the Venator picked up early for UNL. Expect to follow that up with some kind of big utility hero and try and deny away some of U of T's comfort picks.
Yeah, and it's actually going to be the Sinclair. That, really sucks that you're going into this as part of your game plan and it gets sniped away from you. One of the silver linings here is, at least from our short sheet, we don't really see Sinclair as one of the top picks for UNL, but this is definitely going to really shape up how the rest of these picks are for both of these drafts.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that this comes at the start of a draft, because normally we see Sinclair later on as like a counter pick to someone with a big ultimate, like your Dynamo, your Warden, guys to a limited extent, but now University of Toronto can plan around the Sinclair copying their ults for the rest of the draft, so it's a little bit telegraphed from UNL, but I mean, when someone's as good at a character as Styler is, then it can really affect how you play things. And UNL, actually, that does free them up to pick the Dynamo themselves, and they're really going to prio that now that Sinclair's not in the picture.
Yeah, Dynamo is a force to be reckoned with. Also, with that cleanse, it really serves to deny a lot of potential future picks that U of T might choose to make. Pocket is still a pretty viable character, but with the copy available to UNL, you're really removing a lot of the things there. Interesting to see, though, is a Mo and Krill ban coming out of UNL.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that one. Maybe just trying to deny some of the pick roll from U of T, who will in turn ban the Infernus, who's probably the last generic carry that we might see here. I guess Warden's still available for either team, but U of T did pick up the Geist and the Abrams, so as you were talking about, the Geist, kind of an important pick for Nebraska-Lincoln, so taking that one away means there's less damage, and that'll force a Mina pick out instead. And Abrams, just a generically good frontliner. They've got a couple of different players who can play that frontline: Dream Lion, Fractal, Angod. We'll just see who ends up on that one, but generically strong stuff coming out, and that, I expect, might be Styler's pick, that GT. He's shown some pretty good proficiency on that hero.
Yeah, and coming off of a really hot series with Wyatt, going crazy with the birds on Grey Talon, there's definitely a really high bar for them to clear. We see the Viscous come out too from University of Toronto. That's pretty much guaranteed to be going over the way of Johnny. He can really make a lot of magic work with the puddle punches and with the ball. So especially as the designated urn caretaker, you're gonna see this Viscous, I feel like, a lot.
Yeah, Johnny likes to be everywhere on the map at once with any hero that he plays, just being there for whoever needs it. And so U of T are going to round out their draft with a Yamato, and on the other side we see Shiv and a really late Wraith pickup here. I'm curious what you think about this, because I think with Mina and Venator, you got enough there. You maybe would have preferred something with a bit more pick potential to go with your Dynamo.
Yeah, it's screaming pretty much to me like a solo queue kind of draft. You have two very, very high farm characters in the Wraith and the Venator, but then you also want a lot of farm to go the way of your Mina, to go the way of your Sinclair, and you're sort of butting heads and you're contesting each other for a lot of that presence, because you can only realistically have, two side laners, maybe three at most.
Yeah, 3 is pushing it, and even really we see most pro teams with just one, and the other is like a more tempo carry, being involved in a lot of fights. So UNL, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they play this in the macro game, like who they want to prioritize getting farmed, and who's going to maybe fall by the wayside and have to play a bit more active to get the souls that they need. So Interesting strategy from here in UNL, but I do like their draft in terms of just raw power. University of Toronto, I think, have been forced to play around like one too many things in their draft and have ended up with, aside from like the Sard, the Silver, and Geist, a bit lower raw strength.
Yeah, I do definitely think it really reflects the change in players. They do have a lot of frontline, and with UNL opting pretty much out of that trade entirely, yes, they have a Shiv, but aside from that, you don't really have any true tanks to really hold the line for you, so it'll be just a matter of how much damage they're able to pump out, and if they're ahead enough, they're going to be able to steamroll over University of Toronto without much issue.
That is kind of the question here, is who can get off to a hot start, because, I mean, UNL have enough threats that if any one of them gets ahead, especially once we get later in the game, then it's going to be difficult for them to fall behind, but University of Toronto, if they get ahead, then they really need to push the tempo, and so they're going to do that no matter what, just so that they don't give enough time for this Wraith or this Venator to get fed, so could be looking out for the early game to be in particular importance, and I suppose if we're talking about that, we can talk about the laners for each side here, because both sides have some pretty potent threats.
Yeah, there are definitely many options available to them. I think that there's really, really strong lanes coming out of University of Toronto. Meanwhile, UNL, they have a lot of neutralizing agents. You have the Shiv with the Bloodletting. You could potentially pair that up with the Dynamo. I know Shiv Kelvin is a pretty strong core. It's basically the same idea, but a little bit worse because of Dynamo's healing in the early game. When you're looking at that Venator, he can absolutely tear it up with the gut shot in that early game. Although when you're playing against characters like Yamato, like Viscus, like GT, a lot of the time you're going to end up using that defensively as a form of disengage.
Yeah, and there's plenty of Spirit Poke from both sides as well. Like, you've got the GT who can just rain down arrows from afar, Sinclair who can do much the same thing with bolts. Mina is just so annoying, having to play around Love Bites proccing every time you poke your head out of lane, so lots of threats from both sides. I'd probably favor University of Toronto's draft a little bit more when it comes to laning phase, because, I mean, honestly, aside from Abrams, like, all of them can be a real bully in lane, so UNL might have a bit of a tough time there with, I think in particular, Dynamo and Wraith are going to struggle here early on, but of course, laning is so chaotic that it really just comes down to individual play sometimes, so we'll have to see if that's the case. As we do have a slight delay here. Things might be getting sorted out with the University of Toronto. Misclit could be back in, but we're trying to get that sorted out behind the scenes, and in the meantime, we'll keep you here entertained. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, so I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before the stream, right? We did touch on it yesterday too. You're a pretty big Magic player, Sorin, so why don't you walk me through, like, what kind of decks, what are you playing on Magic?
I like decks that make me take a lot of actions,
yeah,
and end up kind of snowballing, coming out of nowhere. I'm mostly playing Commander these days, because that's what my friends play, and so that's what I play in turn to hang out with them, but probably my best deck is Xyrus the Writhing Storm, which makes people draw a bunch of cards, and I make snakes anytime you do. Oh. So eventually, I make my snakes really big, and then I hit you with a bunch of massive serpents.
Okay.
But I was looking at what you were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
We actually both had this in common. We both made a Child of Alara deck at some point in our Magic careers.
Yeah, I actually started playing Magic pretty recently. I think it's been maybe 2 or 3 months, and I started on Commander with some of my friends. And, you know, being somebody who comes in new to this, you see all the flashy collabs, and Miku is one of my favorite, you know, characters online, so I immediately gravitated towards doing a deck with them. And Child of Alara is so much fun, just placing down the 6/6 carry that, you know, you can either buff them up or you can use it as a deterrent. If anyone attacks me, I will block with this and I will wipe your entire board really clean. Though a funny thing that happened last night when I was playing is my friend was playing a Ramping Green deck with an artifact that doubles your tokens on a certain unit. So they stacked up plus 100 and one-shot me through the Miku with Trample, but I ended up wiping their board afterwards, so I sort of got the last laugh.
Hey, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
The version that I made was, it had a couple of different lands where you could sack a creature, and then the deck was like 95 lands. So I would guaranteed have my commander every 2 turns and just wipe the board, and nobody else could do anything until I said they could.
Yeah, that is mighty something. One of, I think, the weirdest experiences I had was playing against an Astarion bleed deck, where you think you're doing well, you're, chipping away at their health bar, and then suddenly they have a 30 damage turn, and they're actually, higher than 40 health where they started at. Where did that come from?
Is that like aristocrats, like sacrificing creatures to blood artist people?
I think so. That sounds about right. But anyways, now that we've got our, magic tangent aside and we've safely put the chat to sleep, we should do that. We should do that. Let's get together after this. But, now we have the dispute settled, right? University of Toronto are going to put Misclicked into this draft. So I'm interested in seeing where they're going to slot in. Most likely going to be on that Lady Geist, right? Because there are still some pretty gun carry elements in there. But as for the rest of this draft, I mean, coming in and inserting a player afterwards, even if they are one of your best, it's going to be a tough time.
Yeah, have to shuffle around players for this. Like, Big Fat B is probably going to be the short end of the stick here. Like, just looking at this draft, if you slot Misclicked in onto the Lady Geist, where does Big Fat B go? It's probably, like, onto Yamato. If just looking at their hero pool, that might be the closest thing to what they play, but it's definitely going to be interesting once we get into the game to see, like, how this is all shaken out. It's definitely an odd situation, not one I've had happen yet in Deadlock.
Yeah, for sure. And, as we are preparing, we're going to have some of the ambiguity sort of cleared up here. It's going to be Misclick there onto that Geist. We see Stylar actually on Yamato, which it feels a little bit uncharacteristic from my perspective. And then you have Fractal there on that Silver, so it makes a ton of sense there. Big Fat B on the GT as well.
All right, so Big Fat B does play the Grey Talon. Good to see that they did get their heroes. And yeah, as you said, having Stylar on this Yamato, I guess you put your best player in the position that they're needed most, so that's going to be a key point for me, though, and they've got a good lane to be able to do something early on with Yamato Geist. Just, I mean, the health bars from UNL in that mid lane are never going to be higher than half, it feels like, even with the Dynamo there pumping into heals.
Yeah, so we did have an opportunity to really dive into what we were expecting for these lanes. Do you see anything here that maybe surprises you compared to our expectations?
I mean, I am surprised that the Dynamo is in mid. Like, they were one of the characters I expected to have a bit of a struggle time early on, and so seeing them in the most important lane to me tells me that they just wanted to like keep this one safe, use that heal to keep the Venator protected and make sure that they don't lose tower. It's going to be a tall ask. The rest of these lanes kind of shaping out standard. Viscous and Silver over on the right side. You've got a lot of disruption there, just a lot of movement penalties against the Shiv and the Wraith. And then the left side, I guess that's kind of odd as well. You've got Abrams and Great Talon, but that's like a front line and a back line, so not terribly surprising in the end.
Yep, lots of good trades here coming out from both these teams. One to point out is Stylar's already dropped down to pretty low HP, and it actually is going to be a kill secured onto Woody Seth. Dreamlion putting in a lot of work, gets parried after the fact, but hey, I mean, I wasn't expecting to see the Abrams, at least in the current balance state, get a kill this early.
Yeah, and you actually saw just there, the charge wasn't unlocked yet, so that all came just in raw, I guess, burger boxing. Curious to see if Woody Seth has the Sanguine Retreat online and maybe just couldn't get out of that one. So yeah, big tempo here for University of Toronto early on as we get up just past that 2-minute mark and we start to see the box routes forming. Fractal has gone pretty deep, I believe, taking UNL's like subway boxes, so that'll be a decent amount of resources denied for them if they get the tempo to go out and answer that. But just small leads early on here. You're not going to see a whole lot happening just yet.
Yeah, definitely one of those signature plays we've seen from UFT are those deep box routes. You're not going to have too much luck if you try contesting them. Yeah, you might be able to rotate 2 people over, but then the amount of farm that you're losing in those lanes, and especially when it's not a guaranteed kill, it can get really dicey. We even see there that the Sinclair is doing the exact same things, although, minimap-wise at least, it is a bit scary.
Yeah. it can be a little bit deceiving. He saw Arctic as well, looking for the same box shots that Fractal had already taken. There's the advantage there. Now you've wasted Dynamo's time and stopped them from getting that large amount of souls. So as we come back to lane here, University of Toronto have amassed about a 1,000 lead between the kill and the more efficient box running, and that is going to mean ultimate timings is the big thing that they get first. And we might see a couple of those pop up before the 5-minute mark to help secure bridge buffs.
Yeah, a big one that seems to be ahead so far is that Abrams, leading into that crashdown, can provide you with a lot of powerful CC in these early fights. And looking on that other side of the teams, Wraith sitting here at 2.9k. Telekinesis is a super powerful ultimate, given that you're able to, choose to pull them away or push your enemies further towards you.
Yeah, and I am a little bit surprised that we haven't seen that Shiv rotate away for a little bit longer. I feel like something that's missing, even at this high of a level, is just how impactful early ganks can be. Like, okay, we are actually seeing one now on this left side. The Dynamo coming in for University of Nebraska-Lincoln. See what Arctic can get done here, but I would love to see exactly more of that anytime you see the enemies pushed up beyond that half bridge.
Yep, 30 seconds to go on the bridge bus. We already see these rotations coming out. Stylar, with the tether, is able to connect over to Arctic, gets a lot of kicks in, but ultimately it's going to be negative for the Yamato. Gets parried here. There's going to be a double parry from both of them. Stylar ends up falling down on top of the spawning buff. That is not something you want to see.
Yeah, unfortunate. University of Toronto may have won the Mo 1v1, but in that case it's Arctic who pulls out the melee victory. And so now that does put Stylar a bit behind, and let's talk about that Yamato being a crucial part. You got to make sure that Yamato stays ahead, because in addition to just Stylar probably being on a hero he's less comfortable with, Yamato is a hero who really struggles to play from behind and needs to stay ahead during this early game.
Yep, and in a game like this where you have very solid side pushing options here from UNL, having a weak Yamato is not going to be very promising for your team when it comes to, at the very least, matching that map pressure, but ideally contesting a lot of it and fighting over. So we do see a lot of ultimates coming online from both of these teams already. I'm not expecting anything too big yet. All the eyes, for me at least, are going to be on Arctic and how they choose to use this singularity.
Yeah, of course, long cooldown. You can't really afford to let it go to waste. Almost all the ultimates online so far. I think Big Fat B's Bird is going to be very large as well, with that global ability to impact any lane. Commitment here from Johnny with the goo ball, trying to find Neptic. Not quite able to get it, but instead, and now we will see that Execute come online, and Dreamline instead goes down on the other side to Woody Seth's Nox Nostra.
Yep, super powerful ability there, just silences your entire kit, and when all of Abrams' mobility is tied to abilities, it's going to be a really difficult time. Now, we already see them speed boosting back to the lane, and he's going to be going in deep, trying to search for a revenge kill, perhaps.
And with Big Fat B's ultimate coming up, that is another way for them to just get more damage in. So Dreamline probably just looking to get them low in hopes that Big Fat B can get an owl onto somebody. So keep an eye on those health bars for UNL. And if any of them go low, you'll probably see that owl come out and try to find something just to get that spirit power stacking more. As we're saying, we've seen some impressive performances, and they're off the back of those early owls set up by the team. And speaking of setups here, Stylar going deep in.
The Telekinesis knocks them away, but the Shadow Form is cast. Now we see the Shiv caught in a rough place, using those jigs, using that shotgun to try and get out, but Neptic is being cut off. Now stuck behind their own Guardian. It's not looking too promising. The shop is not going to save them. The smooth moves are. Oh.
You've got the Viscous over here, Johnny trying to find something, and they will catch Neptic and eventually this Guardian, but they trade out for it in the middle. And there's that bird coming in, trying to find something, and it finds a wall.
Yeah, unfortunate there that the bird did end up going there, but ultimately when you look at UNL's side, there aren't any more, low health bars anymore. So the most you would have been hoping for is a little bit of extra damage, which, you won't ever say no to extra damage.
Yeah, not too much potential there for a kill. And now you'll see a 3v2 on this left side. University of Toronto's Guardian is already fairly low here, so it's got to be an impressive defense from these two from U of T, but a quick parry onto a low-health Abrams means that Guardian is not long for this world. So a slight soul lead now for UNL as we cross the 8-minute mark and centers start to become the priority. And with 3 members already there, I expect them to go for these doubles, where it's just Geist and Viscous to defend.
Yep, when it comes to the doubles, right, we already see UNL. They're diving in deep. They've got the Mina and the Dynamo together. Dynamo is still continuing to be a massive threat, just with holding the singularity and not popping it to get any solo kills.
Yeah, not yet. Could see it happen soon as this skirmish is developing, but it seems like University of Toronto are more than happy to just let it go. For now, don't want to chase too deep as you've still got 2 Guardians to work through in this mid and left side lane. What I want to see, though, for University of Toronto is get this Geist onto a solo lane. I think you'll start to see that now as she heads back to base and Silver starts to roam more towards mid. You just want to get that Geist, that early economy as much as you can, and use the Guardian that you have there to deter the enemy side laners from getting their souls up quite as much as you. So, yeah, extra space now being given over to Misclicked as their main hope to catch this game if it goes late. And there we go. There's the bird kill onto Cloud.
Nice, getting those stacks, really huge for the Great Talon. We do see that Draymond is potentially caught out in a pretty bad spot. Love Bites do get procced on top of him, and the Shiv is here, the Nox Nostra here to silence the abilities, but he has already been able to cast Regeneration, and he isn't going to be able to make it out as the Mina claims the kill.
Pretty impressive stuff here from what he said. Aside from that early death, they've been consistently getting pressure here with those Nox Nostras, and now fights over the bridge buff and the urn. I believe Yamato Styler was not able to get away with that gun buff, and instead is the Venator, the worst possible target, and the Iridomini will catch out Styler once again, and now Silver in with the Werewolf, the Lycan Curse, not likely to find anything. So great kill there for Stromo, who's up to about a 10k soul top of the lobby, I guess, already.
Yeah, that's definitely what you want to see from your late game carry, getting those early kills, and with the gun buff in hand, that the Iridomini just does so much damage, and a cleverly placed trap as well, saving them from the Silver. That's got to be really upsetting from their perspective. We see the urn get deposited for University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and they're sitting pretty comfortably now with a 10k soul lead at 10 minutes.
Yeah, that urn was a pretty big pressure, and now you've got 5 members of Nebraska-Lincoln just pushing on for that Guardian. Again, taking away the space from Geist, not letting her free farm quite as much, so... Yeah, University of Toronto behind early here, and we said that we need them to have a big early game, right? Between the Yamato, who needs to stay ahead, and generally their lack of scaling as compared to Nebraska-Lincoln. And it's looking a little bit rough for Game 1, but still within manageable distance.
Yeah, I think one of the big pointers we want to look out for here, right, is University of Toronto. Yes, they're able to stomp lanes with the kind of comp that they have, which, we're seeing didn't end up playing out, but they've also going to struggle really, really hard in those team fights. You don't have a Lash, for example, to bail you out with a really big death slam. You're going to really rely on individual plays, and I don't know how reliable of a strategy that's going to be against a team of this caliber.
Yeah, meanwhile, on the other side, you've got, pretty much all of Sinclair's kit. You've got the Singularity and the Nox Nostra to silence people as well, but the reason U of T didn't want to draft a whole lot of that is that this early Sinclair pick kind of scared them out of it.
Yep.
Right? Like, that was early on, and they thought, well, we can't draft something like a Lash or a Warden or something with big setup like that, because if we do, then Cloud is just going to copy it every team fight and have it even better than we do. So... honestly, maybe just a deterrent from Cloud.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think of it that way before. As for the current state of the map, though, we see a Guided Owl coming out, potentially anticipating a fight to break out, which didn't quite happen. Looking at the side lane situation, we have a Venator matched up against a Silver, which is a pretty nice spot for your Venator to be in at this stage of the game.
Yeah, no matter where you send the Geist, there's going to be one lane that's just an M1 carry, largely uncontested. I would like to see, again, U of T being a little bit more active and getting off these ganks just to make sure this Venator can't get too far ahead. And there you go, now that's what we're seeing from the Silver.
Yep, got shot, doesn't connect with the wall, and it's going to be a big loss in damage. Lightning Curse comes out, and it's going to shred through this Venator pretty quickly, holding on to that bite just in case he tries to make any fancy moves. And that's going to be a secured kill and a bag that transfers over too.
Didn't quite get the bird in time. Fractal just gave into his instincts and held M1, but that's okay. Big Fat B won't be too lacking for stacks just yet. But that is an important kill, right? That's Stromo off the map for a little bit of extra time as he is further ahead, and you see the soul lead has crept back within 5k for University of Toronto, so more opportunities for them, but man, they're looking low on this left side lane. Cloud did a lot of damage just there.
Yep, those bolts from Sinclair are no joke at this stage of the game, especially seeing, yep, you got the rapid recharge, you're looking at the surge of power potentially next. It's going to be doing a lot, and you know, looking at the rest of this team, right, you having your GT be at 10k, receiving some of the lowest, receiving some extra souls for being the lowest one in the lobby, that's not really a place you want to be in currently.
Leave this to me.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like potential low economy heroes in University of Toronto's draft, right? That's the almost reward of not picking a greedy comp of M1 carries, kind of as UNL did, but at the same time, you need somebody to take those souls and be the carry. Misclicked at 16k is going to be that for now. Styler with the fancy Yamato tech is going to get his way out of that one. But still, I mean, as we said, Yamato behind is not where you want to be for sure. So I'm looking for them to help get Styler a bit of farm and come back into this game.
Yeah, having to use the Shadow Transformation just to get out of a fight, no matter how fancy it is definitely going to feel a little bit sad. Now, we are looking at the urn starting to spawn in, and UNL are on top of this. It would have been a comeback urn for U of T, but if they're not able to get it at all, this is going to be really bad news. And Viscus doing a really good job there with the Puddle Punch of Denial. And there you have it. Johnny's run away with the urn again.
That's the kind of stuff you get from a Viscus main. Like the cube standing still on top of urn to make sure that it can't get poked out or denied away from taking that. Like, that's kind of cool to see. So yeah, that all-important 15-minute urn will be going the way of University of Toronto most likely. And it's up to Nebraska-Lincoln to figure out something that they can do instead. And it looks like the focus, at least for Cloud, is on this right side walker. And he's successfully poking out the guys so far.
If UNL do have a lot of utility coming into this, but the Dynamo is going to get poked out pretty heavily early. The Singularity is still online. He's going to Quantum Entanglement deeper in and is not able to pop it before he dies. Fractal gets traded out shortly after. Johnny's able to deposit the urn. And now the fight just drags out, right? We see Big Dreamlion trying to escape. The Iridomini catches him out at the very end, and some bags do make their way over. The GT of Big Fat B falls out in the aftermath, and we see the Viscus dropping low as well. UFT, they might have dunked that urn in, but I mean, that overall fight definitely stinks.
Yeah, 4 losses and kills. That's not where you want to be. You do at least get the Mina there toward the tail end. And of course Arctic right at the start. So it's a 4-2 trade, and you got the urn. It's not the worst thing in the world, but also not as far ahead as you would have liked to be. Just Stromo on 18k coming in there with that Iridomini. Yep. And University of Toronto's own M1 carry was over here on the right side, just making sure that Walker stayed up. So you were down your biggest soul hero for that fight, and you still were able to get away with at least keeping it even, if not coming ahead just slightly. So University of Toronto, all they have to do is start to even things up in the objectives, where they've already lost that left side walker, and they'll be firmly back into this one.
Yep, and, you know, being 17 minutes in the game, we have yet to still see the Singularity come out. That's got to be rough here for Arctic.
Yeah. Yeah, there was opportunity there in that last fight, but just too much poke from U of T, focusing onto that Dynamo and ensuring that they don't get that all-important ultimate off. So, great focus fire, and now just a free Guardian for Styler. Looking to maybe set up a gank here onto this Wraith. Doesn't realize that there's a Sinclair behind.
Yep, the ganker gets ganked, and the telekinesis comes out to drag them back in. Now, yes, they have the Shadow Transformation. It's going to get popped. They're already 1 HP. The Resist aren't going to do that much for you when a Sinclair is staring you down. So that's an easy kill there, secured for UNL. Dreamline sense packing as fast as he arrived. You know, looking at this map state, University of Toronto are not really able to trade it for anything on the other side either.
Yeah, it was kind of traded out for a pick onto Woody Seth. The Mina, again, being kind of targeted out by U of T. I think Fractal's been doing a good job with the bolas on silver, just making sure that their targets can't get away, and the Silence Wave to follow up as well as you head into Lightning Curse. So a lot of pick potential from the silver. Honestly, I think that's why she's been getting a lot of plays, even only partially for the Lightning Curse, but just... I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot of Holiday or Paradox in the meta recently. It's just been Silver and the rest of these pseudo-pick characters being up.
Yeah, and we see a bit of a skirmish happening in the middle lane. You know, Lightning Curse gets popped, but unfortunately it's going to have to be used to escape here. And, I mean, yeah, our Arctic did fear for their life a little bit, but ultimately it did amount to nothing. Dreamlion, though, is getting chased off and collapsed on the team on the left side.
And a 700 bag going the way of the Wraith. That puts some time in the lead as far as the lobby goes. So, yeah, unfortunate there. Probably some miscommunication about when that fight was happening. And Dreamline off the map for 20 seconds. And now GT put in as well from the telekinesis. There's not going to be any help for Big Fat B. Nebraska-Lincoln now, if they can get a couple more kills, can really start to snowball this. Fortunately, Johnny's there on the rescue.
Yep, solid rescue, and you know, even though mid-boss is still off the table, that's going to result in at least 1 or 2 Sinners going UNL's way, and just continuing to widen that soul lead a little bit more. It is going to be a very close earn percentage-wise. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be University of Toronto getting a second comeback earn this early on in the game, but I mean, we've got 10 seconds to find out.
It should be if they can get their quick.
Yes.
It's less than an 11k lead for UNL just now. Oh no, wait, so that wouldn't be a comeback earn. Man, this is the second game in a row where I've had trouble with earn math. I just need to learn my lesson at this point. Pick attempt comes in here with the silver. Silence Wave thrown out, just trying to get that Lightning Curse online, but against slippery enough targets, it'll be very difficult for University of Toronto to make anything happen. And instead, it's Nebraska-Lincoln who picked up the earn and secured it being a neutral.
Yep, sometime, you know, making those moves, and it's going to be the troopers that block the guided owl.
Get down, Mr. President.
Yeah, pretty sad about that one, and it was actually a neutral earn, so we see Arctic picking it up early, making sure to lock it that way, so they can continue to really be an active force across this map. You know, making their way over to the dunk, but Dynamo is being collapsed in on.
This is the time to bring out the Singularity, and University of Toronto know that, so they're trying to put pressure on him early like they did in the last earn fight. So far, not much happening, but there's 2 members of UNL not here. This is a big fight for U of T.
Yep, Silver going in incredibly deep. Lightning Curse about to pop after coming out of the cube. Or sorry, it's actually the Lightning Curse copy onto the Sinclair. Now the earn is still in Sinclair's hands, or paws at this point. So this is going to be UNL continuing to drag this out as long as possible.
Yeah, now the pressure on the other sides of the map is starting to pay off. Wraith takes that solo walker, and Amina is here in the fight now, so even though they back off, U of T have started to lose things around the map, and they've got to run away from this earn fairly quickly, so UNL get a chance to turn it in now, and they've still got the Singularity in play once they heal up.
Yeah, 29k souls on that Wraith, especially when you start maxing out the full auto. You are going to obliterate these, you know, walkers, these guardians. Interesting pick there onto Styler. Gets caught out. I'm not sure where that was.
I think that was around mid-Guardian. Styler was going for the last Guardian on the map and just got telekinesis in. Not able to pop the Shadow Transformation in time.
Yeah.
So that's, once again, University of Toronto getting picked off early. You can kind of see the discomfort here in their draft. Styler picked off a couple times. Dreamline maybe not feeling too comfortable with the timings. And it's just little things like that that can lose you a match when you have such a close opponent like Nebraska-Lincoln.
Yep, Earn comes through, but it's going to be the Puddle Punch to deny it, at least for now. And the Crashdown comes through. The Dynamo is really dangerous in the middle of your team, is not able to pop the Singularity. Actually did, but gets popped right after that. Right, University of Toronto leading this fight so far by 1 kill, although it's not going to be for long as Dreamline gets caught out. Cloud is able to get a second kill there with the bolts, and the Bunny form is going to deny a lot of the value here from the Silver. Gets knocked down low, gets picked off eventually, although with the Sinclair traded back, it's still 3 for 2.
messy, it's bloody, but slowly University of Nebraska-Lincoln are still coming into this. Sometime and Stromo are not dead yet, and that's the brunt of your damage, so an unfortunate hyperline there means 6 kills for Nebraska-Lincoln, and that'll be a pretty easy mid-boss, and even a solo walker on top of it, so I think that's the fight where UNL just turned the corner in this game, and now University of Toronto have a steep hill to climb if they want to come back into this. With mid-boss, all walkers down, and a Wraith and Venator who are starting to get fed. It's pretty tough.
Yep, this is definitely one of the hardest stages of the game to be in. You drafted this early game comp, you want to be ahead, you've been behind the entire match, and now you've just lost a 6v6 very handedly over an urn. And mid-boss going the way of UNL, right? We've highlighted multiple times the Venator, the Wraith. Even looking at the rest of the team, just the amount of net worth that they're able to amass, it still puts, you know, the lower economy members of University of Toronto in a really tough spot when they're, you know, fighting those skirmishes.
Yamato, Grey Talon, Viscus, they're not going to feel like they're doing a whole lot of damage in these fights, even with the couple of bird stacks that we've seen from Big Fat B. And Styler once again caught out here. Gonna have the Dispel Magic and the Rescue Beam to try and get out, but the rest of UNL are on their tails, and Johnny will be the first casualty here for University of Toronto.
Yeah, bit of overextension there. They thought they might have been able to, you know, head out towards that middle line and clear back through the jungle camps towards their own base, trying to deny a little bit of that farm from UNL. But ultimately, what ended up happening was they ended up giving kills instead. Now, there is a last-ditch effort here to defend this walker, but with the Wraith hailing down cards from above, even behind it, you see already 2 members just dropping down to 1 HP. The curse does back in, but Silver immediately is forced to try and disengage. Cloud is able to clean up that kill, and now down 2 members and up 3 rejuves. UNL, they're going to take the squad.
Again, I think some uncharacteristic miscommunication from University of Toronto. The Silver goes in at the same time as half of University of Toronto have to go back to base. And that means even with the Lycan Curse, there's just not enough HP to be able to do anything in that fight, so I'd love to hear what's going on behind the scenes, see what University of Toronto are trying to do here, but it seems like right now they're just not on the same page.
Yeah, I do think there's definitely a lot of external factors going into this game, but ultimately we have to play with the hand we're dealt. Looking at this current state, current game state, it really does feel like UNL's game to lose. We see the urn get picked up. It's going to be an attempt at a deposit here, and with Arctic just 8 seconds away from their next singularity, this is really big potential here for Teamfight.
This is make or break for University of Toronto, and Misclick, the first one to go down. Guys, the person you want most to be in this fight is out of it, and Dreamline is well picked off. Nebraska-Lincoln, I mean, have everything in the world to play with here. Everybody's up, all the lanes are getting shoved. Oh, maybe aside from that left one. And the urn was even deposited by Arctic, who didn't have to use the singularity in that fight, so this is about to be a base push, and it could get very dangerous very quickly here for U of T.
Yeah, very valuable rejuve so far. You know, minute 30 left, you've been able to get an urn, you're cracking the base guardians, getting the shrines, all at the cost of only 1 of them. Now, your Wraith is going to have to play a little bit more safe without them, but it's a 40k Wraith at this point of the game. You don't have too much to fear.
Fractal goes down. Silver just a little over aggressive. That means that these shrines are probably next to go, and I mean, Cloud getting poked out is not in terribly much danger, even from this GT raining arrows from the spawn. So, honestly, it's a good attempt, Toronto, but it might be time to go game 2 with this. It's a 50k lead. Sometime and Stromo are on an absolute tear here. Shrines are down. You got to put in the effort, but we recognize that there is almost no way back into this at this point.
Yeah, we see the Wraith there trapped in a bit of no man's land. He's going to teleport their way out into the GT snare, and that's going to be 1 more kill for University of Toronto. They traded 1 for 1 so far. There's still 1 rejuve left on the board. Lots of visual effects there to take down Stylar. Even though CC doesn't affect them, the damage definitely does. And that was definitely going to be University of Toronto's last hurrah. That Ember Shrine is going to fall shortly after. Patron soon to follow, and I mean, given the lead, given the position that UNL are in, I'm sure they don't really care about the reduced respawn times either.
And Trauma will even make use of that last rejuke just before it fades. 10 seconds left to go, and you get a full health reset on your Venator. Now, Cloud does go down. 2 big fat B, but that's about all you're able to manage, and so UNL, I mean, they're in no rush to get this done, even, like, they know that they have the late game scaling, so, I mean, why make the risky play here? You can just back off, take all your farm, take all your centers, and be completely fine. They still have all 3 walkers up, by the way. There are no flex slots unlocked for U of T.
Yeah, we got another minute and a half until, you know, your buffs spawn back in, your urn comes back as well, which should be easy, you know, 4 to 5k extra souls for UNL. You have the mid-boss coming up in 2 minutes. There's definitely a lot to play for here, and if you're looking for that one angle, if you're holding your breath, if you're praying for University of Toronto to come back into this game, that 2-minute marker is going to be, you know, the big moment for them.
Yeah, but even an urn is only worth about 6,000 souls at this point in the game. I think a little higher. So even if University of Toronto were able to pull off some heroics and dunk that one in, it's not going to narrow this lead by terribly much. You need multiple good team fights at this point to really come back into this one, plus some mid-bosses. So the line is very, very tricky at this point, and you've got to do it against Sometime, who's not been slacking on this Wraith, and a Singularity, which, I mean, we haven't even seen a whole lot of this game, but has the potential to be a late-game win on its own.
Yeah, and looking at the carries on UNL, you know, seeing 43k, 40k each, and you're talking about, oh, I have your house on my wrist, I've got your Viscous and your GT on my wrist, ready to go.
Yeah, and meanwhile on the other side, this clicked at 33k. That's not nothing for a Geist, but you're getting shut down by a Mina and a Shiv who are about your same net worth, and Cloud's not even too far behind on the Sinclair, and Sinclair does not need a whole lot of net worth to shut you down very much. See Arctic picking up the Unstoppable. That means that even Dreamline now can't cancel out that Black Hole, which is, I think, what we saw the last time and the only time we've seen a Singularity so far this match. Got canceled out by Dreamline, so that's not an option anymore, and that's the benefit of being ahead, is you can buy so many counter items that you shut out the opposing team's method of coming back in. So now the urn is being taken, but UNL are here in the catch.
And the Electric Transformation there is just going to give themselves an opportunity to escape. It's a nice stun there onto the Nox Nostra, but the Abrams is going to get pulled in for it instead. And, you know, while it was a solo attempt there, University of Toronto now down 1 member. They're facing down University of Nebraska-Lincoln. 5 seconds left on this mid-boss, and with the urn in tow, they're probably just going to send everyone mid. Yeah, and you'd love to be able to get something in trade for it. If you're Toronto, at least maybe manage a walker, but the lanes have been shoved in well enough that that would be tough. And so now, your 1% back into this game is to try and contest this rejuke. You can have a GT trap, and it doesn't even come in, so it feels almost like an FF in the chat for University of Toronto. Like, that's your 0.5% line back into this, and you don't even go for it. Yep, it is definitely a tough position to be in. This being, you know, a best of 3. There is going to be an opportunity to ultimately win this series when you come back after this. And yeah, I mean, this is just continuing to play into that, you know, established narrative that we've seen before, right? The 1-to-1 that they had when they played each other one month ago was UNL taking the first map, then University of Toronto striking back and hitting them with an even bigger gold deficit. So I'm definitely interested to see if history is going to repeat itself here tonight. Could be the case, and if so, then we'll actually get to see the match 3 play out this time. The regular season is only best of 2s, just proceeding, and so we never got to see who won out in that one. So now maybe Game 3 is going to be where University of Toronto are looking to take things out, because it seems like it won't be in 2. Yep, big fat B ends up losing their life pretty early sometime. Getting the rejuve knocked off of them is a pretty big development here, but you're going to have to be able to do that a second time just to, you know, really establish your foothold in this fight. The Hidden King is dropping to low health. The curse comes out, which is going to give themselves an opportunity to get into that pit. Misclicked, falls down. And now with that deep on fight, University of Toronto are, you know, funneling in one after the other, last-ditch efforts. UNL take map 1.
Beautiful.
And just some small discomforts for University of Toronto with one of their players being late and forcing that kind of awkward draft that we shouted out from them. That's all the margin it takes when you're in a match this close, and really all the top 4 teams of College Deadlock are in that sort of range where, you know, one of them has a bad day, one of them has a bad draft, one of them has a player late, and they could take it home. UNL and University of Toronto, I think, are 2 of the most evenly matched teams we have in the series. So just a small mismatch like this means that it can really look like a stomp from UNL, and it looks like they're the much better team, but I think in Game 2, we'll see something a little bit better from University of Toronto.
Yeah, I've definitely got my fingers crossed here for this next game. You know, as a self-claimed Toronto man, there is a lot of pride in my, you know, home city coming in to perform, but you know, the stats don't lie, and looking at the scoreboard afterwards, it definitely does reinforce a lot of what we saw throughout that match, and it was a valiant effort. Even seeing the the Viscous somehow coming out of this with the highest amount of damage on U of T. When we look at the Archmother side, though, when we look at UNL, it's business as expected, pretty much.
I want you to take a look at the objective damage for University of Toronto. Highest is just under 3k for Yamato, and you have 2 players with 0 objective damage. Like, you didn't even get all of the Guardians, and you never got onto a Walker in this game. Like, that's just how much UNL were pushing even during the early game, that they lost so few objectives and were just kind of able to do as they pleased on the map. So definitely rough stuff here in Game 1 for University of Toronto, but we'll be able to retool for Game 2. All right, that's the benefit of a best of 3 coming in here into playoffs. You do get a bit of a longer series to feel things out, come back into it, reset your mental, and it might be a long night, but University of Toronto are definitely capable of some heroics here.
Yep, for sure. Now we are going to be sending you over to a quick break, and when we're back, you know, hopefully University of Toronto, they're going to wake up a little bit, you know, head us into the rest of this series. So we'll see you all very shortly.